But let's start the webinar. Revenue Forum is a non-profit initiative started by me in 2008. Currently, we organize webinars. We hold these on Thursdays every other month. We have half-day seminars in 12 cities in 10 countries. Coming seminars will be held in Helsinki, Oslo, and Reykjavik next week for the very first time. But I will give you some more information at the end of this webinar. We also organize whole day events. This is a unique hybrid event held simultaneously online as well as physically in Stockholm, London, Milan, and most probably more cities throughout the world. The next one is planned on the 31st of January next year. And also here, more information to follow at the end of this webinar. The topic of this episode is travel statistics for the hotel industry. And we have invited an expert panel to show their fantastic statistics. Participants to this webinar are a broad mix of listeners from all over the world. There are hotels ranging from 2 to 5-star independent and large brands, and we will try to make this coming hours as inspiring to you all. Our expert panel consists of 4 speakers who will each get 10 minutes to talk. Let me start with the introduction of the first speaker, Samantha. Samantha, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Anne-Marie, and hello, everybody. So my name is Samantha Mardkhah, and I am the regional manager at STR for Northern and Western Europe.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving for someone that is watching in US. So my name is Jorge Rocha. I'm Business Development Manager for UK and Ireland at OTA Insight.
Claudia?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Claudia, and I'm a market manager here in the Hotels Network.
Okay, and then Anna.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anna. I am product specialist at ReviewPro, and today I will be talking about the key takeaways from the Q3 Global Hotel Review Benchmark Report.
Okay, and my name is Annemarie Gubanski. Today I'm not speaking, I'm the moderating. And apart from being the organizer of Revenue Forums, I am the founder and CEO of Tacticon Consultancy and our newly started soft brand Tacticon Hotels. Now let's see if we can go over to the first speaker of today. Samantha, I hope that you are ready to start.
Yes, it is. Perfect. So as I mentioned earlier, my name is Samantha, and today what I will be talking to you about is the hotel performance from 2022. And I will also try to give you a snippet of what we are currently seeing in terms of future performance. My presentation will cover 6 main subjects. We will start off with hotel demand. We will then look at room rates. I will then also try and cover the various trends between leisure travel as well as business travel, look at the performance of various class segments within the hotel portfolios of economy all the way up to luxury hotels. And then lastly, I will also give you an outlook on what the future holds. So starting off with hotel demand, we can definitely now see that the world has reached 94% of its 2019 occupancy performance. And this is based on a constant hotel sample, which have provided their data to STR back in 2019 as well as 2022. The surge in travel demand was mostly influenced by revenge travel as well as global leisure demand. With that, though, the biggest concern that travelers have nowadays is really the cost of their travel more than anything else. Going on a holiday today has become a very expensive business. Inflation has had its fair share on hotel rates, which we see more of in the coming slides. And you know, especially when we need to take into consideration that our food costs are rising, energy bills, mortgage, rent expenses, all of these things are increasing at the moment. So that really justifies the reason why cost of travel is really topping the list here. Yet, performance, particularly in Europe, is looking rather strong for the month of October. Europe has reached 72% in occupancy levels, just 5 percentage points short of what it did in 2019. And the only region globally that is really just lagging behind is APAC. And that is mainly due to China's zero COVID policy, which still restricts any inbound and outbound travel. From a market perspective now, most large gateway cities have been able to achieve over 80% of their October year-to-date performance versus 2019. And again, here we can see that the ones that are still lagging behind are mostly concentrated in APAC and also Moscow, which is due to its war with Ukraine. Over the last quarter, the European countries which have performed best in terms of occupancy were Ireland, Italy, and France, followed by the UK, while some other countries like Germany and Netherlands, which are more reliant on corporate travel as well, have been a little bit slower to grow occupancy post the summer months, now that the amazing good weather that we had is over. And now moving on to room rates. In terms of rates, whilst demand has tiptoed back to full strength, ADR has surpassed 2019 levels. Of course, we do need to take inflation into consideration here as well, but even outside of inflationary rates, real ADR has grown as a result of that growing demand. And around the globe, again, we are looking at double-digit ADR growth versus October 2019. This particular slide here, just to mention, is in USD. And on a market-by-market basis, this ADR growth becomes even more visible as we are facing an almost all-green performance globally. Some of Europe's strongest ADR markets this last quarter were Italy, Ireland, and UK, while France is also playing catch-up since October and is seeing quite a nice rate growth. I did mention earlier that the leisure market has strongly influenced demand recovery, but of course, not everywhere has leisure had the same influence. So the first slide that we will look at now is UK staycation markets back in 2021. That have really had a record year, both in terms of occupancy and in ADR, while people weren't able to go abroad as much as they would want. But does that now mean that the Brits will no longer travel for their search of some sunshine and heat? No, definitely not. Comparing this to 2022, UK staycation, I'm having trouble with this word, markets experienced a drop both in occupancy as well as in ADR performance. And now moving on to the Mediterranean region in 2022, again, if we compare that performance, we could safely say that the Med could not have had a better summer than this one. Obviously, all taken into consideration that we are still in a recovery from COVID. We can always improve. And I think that the next three pictures really speak for themselves when trying to explain why the Mediterranean region has performed so positively over the last few months this summer. And now moving on to business travel and going back to just 1 year ago, where there was still quite a lot of uncertainty around corporate travel. 96% of those interviewed by Concur said that they were willing to return to travel. 65% were even very willing. And 1 in 10 even admitted that their partners simply wanted them out of the house. Deloitte also forecasted that by Q4 of 2022, 65 to 80% of corporate travel would have been recovered. So really very different opinions to that of Bill Gates, which said that by the end of COVID, so in a post-COVID world, only 50% of business travel would have been recovered. And then again, looking at a weekday versus weekend performance between August and November, we can here see how weekday performance has slowly started to improve, albeit with some bumps, while weekend business recovery is more of in a stagnation phase at the moment. And now in terms of occupancy on the books, I've just randomly selected 3 European markets here, being Copenhagen, Brussels, and Amsterdam, but we have that data available for many other regions across the globe. But what is nice to see here is that we can really see, especially in Brussels in the middle, we can really see the recovery between future occupancy levels. So occupancy on the books taken as a snapshot on the 14th of November for the next 90 days. This year compared to last year. And actually, I've just noticed now that the slide is missing. The blue line represents same time last year, while the green columns are this year's pickup. And now in terms of class segments, so looking at hotel classes, we can clearly distinguish the difference between the lower the class, the higher the occupancy, higher the class, the stronger the ADR recovery. So this slide really speaks for itself. And now in terms of outlook, we are expecting European international arrivals to improve in 2023 on 2022. This is forecasted data that we produce in collaboration with Oxford Economics. But of course, this improvement will be in moderation. And again, this moderation is explained in the next slide, where across Europe, as leisure travel still continues to drive demand, business travel starts to resume. We are looking ahead at a more stable recovery outlook and expect moderation, both in occupancy and in ADR growth, as again, that impact of pent-up demand fades, and of course, the cost of living crisis increases. And now, finally, looking at a European hotel pipeline, the end of COVID also means the rebirth of hotel construction, with the UK holding the torch at 118,000 new keys due to open in the coming years. So in conclusion, what we've seen here today is, first of all, hotel demand is still strengthening globally. Room rates have fully recovered in real terms, but are now starting to plateau. The leisure travel Mediterranean region has definitely had an amazing summer. Business travel, to our joy, I am sure, is back despite COVID fears. Luxury segment outperforming all the other class segments. And then lastly, yes, a recession looms, but don't panic just yet. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
I certainly did. Thank you so much, Samantha. It's amazing, but actually you forget that only a year ago we were in the midst of restrictions. So hooray for us humans having goldfish memories and just like go back to normal almost immediately, right? I think it shows very, very, very well in this in your statistics. Thank you so very much. I have a few questions for you at the end of all presentations, but then before that, let's go over to the next speaker, Jorge.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jorge Rocha. As I mentioned before, I'm a business development manager at OTA Insight for UK and Ireland. And today I'm going to be presenting the Global Hospitality Insights with the winter version, so for the remainder of the year and Q1 next year as well. So just a little bit of an introduction as well. So in the beginning of the year, as most of you have seen in the global network, we have acquired a company called Transparent. And this allowed us to tap into a completely different world from what OTA Insight was operating. So Transparent holds or is the gatekeeper for a lot of the short-term rental information, not only from an occupancy, but also an ADR and rate perspective. So what did we decide to do together with all of this data is put it into perspective in a study case, but also look into now the winter, now combining both of these sets. We now represent the largest source of hotel and alternative lodging data in the world. And it's with this combination of data that I'm going to bring you a study case very relevant for us at the moment, which is happening is the biggest sports event in the world. So the FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022. And here you will see two sets of data, both from hotel and an alternative lodging. When we look into the FIFA World Cup at the moment and as it's seen, so between December 2020 and 2022, hotels and alternative lodging have seen a 416% average spike in advertised ADRs in Doha, Qatar. In the Qatari business, in the Qatari tourism during this year, the 2022 has been very, very similar to 2019 levels. But then when we get to the time of the World Cup, it's easily understandable how much the rates are impacting. However, big demand events have always been big demand drivers that impact also surrounding locations and other tier 1 destinations, as we can see over here, not only from an hotel, but also an alternative lodging. Now, when we look into the FIFA hotel price changes, there is something that we notice that is very, very interesting. And I can actually correlate this with the entire stories of the founders and how OTA Insight started. When we look into the price on the 17th of October, for the time during the FIFA World Cup, the rates were 57.5% up. However, fast forward to the 9th of November, excuse me, you will see that the rates have actually dropped in around 34% for the entire FIFA World Cup. So if you're still thinking to attend one of the games, this is definitely might be the good time to book. We've seen this in other destinations. However, they probably caught up the lack of demand a little bit before, apart from Dubai, which actually adds a reduction onto that. So while speaking with the hoteliers on the ground, they mentioned that, yes, it's the biggest sports event in history, but they were operating with heavily on restricting inventory and also very high rates. And just the event itself was not enough to fill up the hotels. If we look into the FIFA pricing for rooms in Doha, Qatar, again, looking to all-star ranking, it's important to highlight there's a staggering 48% of the inventory in Doha is 5 stars, with the remaining being 4 stars, and 3 stars is only less than 5%. But however, you will notice over here around the last week of the competition, so towards the final, the advertised rate dropped in over $500. So now sitting around $1,000 as well. So if you still have some spare tickets, now definitely is a good time to book. And where are the guests traveling from? So what are the top 5 countries searching for hotel stays in Doha in Qatar? There's no surprise over here with UK and Germany being traditional football fans, the powerhouses, they are leading those searches. United States is a sport that is definitely growing, and also they have the squad participating in the World Cup. So this would combine them, the top 3. I would like to highlight India, that is not present in the competition. However, according with FIFA data, they are the 7th biggest market in terms of those day tickets as well. And that's why they would represent a large portion of those searches. And now let's look to the winter ahead. In terms of holiday travel insights, is winter coming? We have already seen some of the data from STR as well, but from our perspective, is the winter going to be as cold as expected? Is not? How are the differences between alternative lodging and hotels? So when we look to the winter advertised price increases versus 2019, so again, we're looking to December, January, and February 2023, we'll see that alternative lodging, represented by the blue bars, is advertising a 42% higher compared to the same time period in 2019. Hotel rates are showing a more conservative approach with a 23% increase in all the 10 markets that we have benchmarked across AMER, EMEA, and APAC. If we then look into the occupancy levels in Christmas 2022 across the 10 markets, you will be able to understand that alternative lodging currently has less occupancy for Christmas than hotels, but they have seen a 78% increase in their occupancy versus the same time period in 2019, while hotels are only seeing an increase of 34% on those levels. So if you were questioning if alternative lodging is competing or stealing some market share in this market, we can definitely rely on the data for that. With the New Year's Eve, again, across on the 10 key markets, conversely, well, alternative lodging has more occupancy on the books for New Year's Eve than hotels, even though that hotels are still up by 28%. And this is easily represented over here, with definitely Maldives and Sydney leading that in terms of the alternative lodging. Over here, just another way to see those rates for the New Year's Eve. So what I would highlight over here as a very interesting case is Bangkok. So if you're looking for an exotic New Year's Eve, Bangkok in terms of alternative lodging is sitting on around the $70 per night, with the hotels surpassing by a little bit on the $100. I was just reading an article today, and Bangkok is still facing lack of demand. The levels of between January and September were only 19% of the levels of 2019, and they're only expected to fully ramp up to 2019 levels by 2024. And is short-term let impacting your market per se? And here it's a very, very good picture of what is happening. So when we look into December, January, and February 2019 levels for hotels compared to 2022, there's only 3 markets that are actually surpassing the 2019 levels. And this would be Barcelona, London, and Sydney. However, when we look into alternative lodging, it's a much different picture. There's not one single destination that is not massively outperforming their levels in 2019. When we look into the top short-term rental markets, Paris, Barcelona, and London are driving those. So in a nutshell, alternative lodging is 96% up when compared to the same time period versus 2019, and hotels are pacing -6% behind. So if you're interested to learn more in terms of this data, we support over 250 destinations in terms of those searches, but also now with Transparent, we can bring alternative lodging data, which was always been, I would say, a gray area, but highlighted as very curious from the hoteliers as well. And this is what I had to present today for the winter months.
Wow, fantastic. Interesting also to see that you took the alternative lodging part and compared that. I love that. Thank you so much, Jorge. Well, I see that the slide for Claudia is off. I hope that Claudia herself also is prepared and ready to start her presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Yeah, so my name is Claudia. I'm the market manager here in the Hotels Network, and I'll be focusing today on the statistics specifically related to the direct channel, but also we focused mainly on the northern market. However, we have this data available also in different regions. So if you feel like you would like to know a particular other country or city, just feel free to reach out directly to me and I can provide you with the statistics. All right, so for those of you that maybe are not so familiar with the Hotels Network, we specialize in 2 things. So first, we focus mainly on the direct website performance, in particular benchmarking, so that hotels can learn by using real-time competitive data and increase the website conversion. And then as a second, we act on the collected data with the actual tools that are boosting your direct bookings. So even though today we are going to look at an overall from the destinations perspective, in fact, we have a number of different composites available based on which you can benchmark your website performance. So these different composites can include brand, destination that we call proximity, or our global network from the Hotels Network. We can even build your own composite so you can compare it to a specific competitor directly. However, let's dive into the data we prepared for today. All right, so let's start here, we'll be focusing, on the northern markets today. And I wanted to start more important learning, which is regarding the website conversion rates. We can see that Denmark is experiencing the lowest conversion from a visitor to the booking engine stage, while Finland struggles also with the booking engine conversion step. Usually, the over or underperforming is based on how well the website content can engage with the visitor. So here, from the perspective of underperforming on the homepage, we can see how to push more users to make a search by creating a layer message that was bringing awareness to the special offer, but also creating an urgency. In this case, for the winter special offer, so something just a hot topic right now. And then the next step would be improving the booking engine conversion. So here we can see a price comparison as a great example of how to succeed in that exact stage of the funnel. Hotels that convert well in their engine are those that assure based on the price and also encourage visitors with the best price through the special offers. So in case you want to move away from discounting, it's also about bringing and highlighting the value of the direct booking that can't be found elsewhere. And here, Nobis Hotel did an excellent job with improving the booking engine conversion by 24%. So they targeted a 15% off message only to people within the 0 to 40% intention of completing the reservation. So these users are usually most motivated by the discount. And then on top of that, they also expanded their marketing database by 144 new emails. Another data regarding the devices now. So we can see that in terms of searches, it's pretty much equally split between the mobile and the desktop. But then if we move to the next slides, we can see that when it comes to the actual reservations, they mostly come from the desktop. So the mobile traffic doesn't convert that well, and I'm sure we all know that problem already. You can also check the previous periods and compare, for example, if the traffic is increasing or decreasing, what's the trend, and if you should focus more on the mobile aspect. Because you might ask, what do we really need the stats for? Well, definitely with the data you just saw, we know that you might want to capture those guests that are on the mobile much earlier in their discovery stage. Here, an excellent example of Ligula and how they captured more of their mobile traffic. What they did was enticing the mobile users with a mobile exclusive offer, and we improved the mobile engine conversion by 38% in total, compared, of course, to the previous period without running the messages. Next finding tells us about the breakdown between searched and booked length of stay. So here we can see straight away a huge opportunity for Finland, whereas searched length is 7.5 nights, but the booked length of stay is 3.1 nights. So huge gap. And there's actually a way for hotels to act on this data. And here is an example. So you can create a layer that encourages users to stay longer and benefit from a discount based on the amount of selected nights. So for instance, we can try that with Sunday nights only. Or if you perhaps have particular weekday that never books up, you can basically target users and give special discounts based on the search results. So the days that are selected or the amount of nights that the user is searching for. And the last one that we see is about the disparities. So the disparity frequency on the left, and then on the right, you can find the amount of the undercut price. What you'll definitely notice straight away is that Iceland, followed by Denmark, they are having quite high disparity frequencies. So that gives us quite a big warning that OTAs are becoming a little bit more aggressive these days in their pricing approach. So yeah, here is a quick way of action on this data. You need to know when it happens and for what users, for what exact dates. All of that can help you to monitor and have clear picture of how to tackle this problem. We have a disparities dashboard where you can even have a screenshots to see how the price looked exactly at the OTA page. And then another idea would be back again to the price comparison, but this time we've added real-time price matching to just delegate the discount only when the OTAs is actually undercutting you, in order that you reassure every guest on your website that you have the best available rate, and direct website is just basically the best place to book. So yeah, just in brief summarizing, that's all I wanted to share today. And remember to benchmark your website, identify quick wins, and show user the exact message that they are looking for. Thank you.
Just a quick question before we go over to the next one. How can hotels access this benchmark? What is needed?
Yeah, exactly. So to benchmark, basically hoteliers can access the data by putting a line of their count on their website and booking engine. So that's it, very simple. And after exactly 30 days, they can see all the website performance statistics. And it takes a month because we want to make sure that the data is statistically relevant for the hoteliers to take the actual action on it.
Nice, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, last but not least, Anna, you are the final speaker of the forum, and I hope that you're ready for that.
And hi to everybody on the call. Thanks for joining today. My name is Ana Alonso. I am the product specialist at ReviewPro. And during this session, we'll take a deep dive into ReviewPro Q3 Global Hotel Review Benchmark Report. We have analyzed over 1.5 million reviews of 7,500 hotels worldwide to help hoteliers plan and budget for the guest experience in 2023. As you will see, it's been over 2 years since the pandemics, and still we are talking about its effects in the industry. So before looking at the data, let's set up the context. By the third quarter this year, most COVID restrictions have been eliminated around the world. It resulted in a much needed boost in travel demand. According to Amadeus, the average global occupancy was 67% in July and August. That means 3% higher than the same period in 2019. STR reports that in August, nearly 1/3 of the global markets grew occupancy and average rate over 2019 numbers. So how did those conditions affect the guest satisfaction? Next slide, please. While talking to many of our clients, we're hearing a lot of similar situations. There is a lack of staff and it's hard to find qualified people. Hotel costs are rising because of the global inflation, and so many have had to increase their rates. This has led to an increase of guest expectations, which are being met with lower service levels. It's challenging for hotels right now. Next slide, please. You might be asking now, but why online reputation matter? Apart from driving bookings, reputation also drives revenue. The Global Review Index is the industry standard online reputation score based on review data collected from more than 140 online travel agencies and review sites in more than 45 languages. A study conducted in collaboration with Cornell University and STR showed that an increase of 1 point in GRI results in a higher profitability. Specifically, as it shows in the slide, 1 point equals an increase of 0.89% in ADR, 0.54% in occupancy, and 1.42% increase in RevPAR. Next slide, please. According to our results of our benchmark report, we can see that our global review or GRI index is dropping year after year. In the third quarter of this year, The global GRI fell by almost 2 points compared to the same quarter in 2019, hitting in low by 84%. 3-star hotels performed the worst, losing 2.5 points, whereas 4-star hotels lost 2 points and 5-star hotels lost 1.6 points and managed to hold relatively high GRI of 88.3%. So the challenges hoteliers have been facing are taking a toll, in guest satisfaction. Europe followed the global trend, experiencing a significant decline of 2.7 points. Next slide, please. Here we look at review volume and review source. Global review volume continued to recover in the third quarter of 2022, a reflection indeed of higher travel activity. In the European region, 470,000 reviews were posted in the third quarter of this year. This was an increase of 13.5% over Q3 2021. However, we are still 26.3% lower than Q3 2019. As for review source, TripAdvisor showed the largest increase compared to Q3 2021 at 36%, but still generated 33% fewer reviews than in Q3 2019. Booking.com was the only major review source to increase review volume from 2019 to 2022 by a modest 2.6%. Volume for all sources was much lower in Q3 2022 compared to the same period in 2019. What it is an indication that the travel volume is still well below pre-pandemic levels. Next slide, please. What's really interesting is that while most review sources were relatively flat in terms of review share from 2019 to 2022, Booking.com, what it's shown in the dark blue in the pie chart, continued to dominate review market share in Europe, generating 56.7% of reviews, over half of all reviews. Since Q3 2019, the OTAs has grown its market share by 12.9 points. Meanwhile, Google, that you can see it in green, generated 21.3% review volume in Q3 2022, considerably lower than its global volume of 29.4%. What it shows as well is that between Google and Booking.com, 78% of the market is covered. It will therefore become more important for hoteliers to try to work on diverse source distribution strategy. Next slide, please. And when we look where text reviews come from, while Google and Booking.com are the main sources of reviews, it's TripAdvisor and Google which provide most text form reviews. So this is important for hoteliers at this very call. Just because I look on Booking.com and leave a review on Booking.com doesn't mean I am not looking at TripAdvisor. We know that TripAdvisor is an important step in the buying cycle. So if you don't have fresh reviews on TripAdvisor, this will definitely negatively impact your ranking position and overall online reputation. Next slide, please. While review volume goes up, unfortunately, so do negative reviews. We know with high occupancy rates, with higher ADRs, business is growing, and it's great, but the expectations do too. And due to the staff shortage, there is an operational gap, and it reflects in the rise of negative reviews quarter after quarter. Looking at the graphic, we see when comparing Q3 2022 with Q3 2019, that negative review volume has grown a lot. This trend is evident across different sources. However, what we can also see in this graph is that Booking.com provides a much larger number of negative reviews than any other source, with Q3 reaching 37.80%. Let's understand why. What's hurting this experience the most? Next slide. Unfortunately, there is a lot of external factors that had a negative impact in the hotel industry this year and ultimately to the guest experience. This past summer ranked among the hottest on record in many countries around the world, and this directly impacted the GRI. Where is my air conditioning? The room index had the highest negative impact, driving down the GRI by 2.6 points. Remember that we discussed about what is the effect of only dropping 1 point. So imagine 2.6 points in your GRI is quite high. And if taking a better look at the results, what we see is that cleanliness was also affected by 1.9 points, followed by food and beverage, and establishment and facilities. So what can hoteliers do? Next slide. Definitely, by responding to reviews, hoteliers show travelers that they are listening and are committed to guest satisfaction. Even when the reviews are negative, a thoughtful response can make travelers more likely to book a property, according to TripAdvisor. Despite staffing shortages and high occupancy levels, hotels in Europe responded to 56.2% of respondable reviews in Q3 2022, an increase of 3.5 points relative to Q3 2021 and of 0.5 points relative to Q3 2019. Three-star hotels responded to 42.2% reviews, four-star hotels 58.2%, and five-star hotels responded to 63%. Just for your information, the average response time was 3.7 days for the positive reviews, and it's normal that it's a little bit higher. For negative reviews, it took 4.7 days. Next slide, please. So with the return of business travel, hoteliers need to keep a close eye on how they are meeting the expectations of the business traveler, as they can provide a large sum of repeating annual revenue for hotels. Here we are looking at positive semantic mentions for corporate guests versus couples, and we can see that perception of different areas of the guest experience is very different. For example, looking at room, value, or establishment, there are the areas where corporate guest satisfaction is at the lower to leisure. Next slide, please. Not all are bad news, of course. Looking into data, what we see on the contrary is that personality and attitudes are trending positively. Experience, staff, and service remain key drivers for positive online reviews. We need to safeguard the efforts and time of staff to allow them to focus on creating memorable touch points with guests. Next slide. So, under the circumstances that we just saw, hotels, we can say, that have done a remarkable job of upholding guest satisfaction levels in 2022. So congratulations to all the hoteliers that are listening to this webinar. But definitely there is certainly room for improvement. Review ratings are highly competitive. The difference in GRI among competing hotels are often just a few fractions of percentage point. With these review insights in mind, the ones that I just shared, as the landscape continues to change, we need to be prepared to pivot and adapt all the time. Use data to understand how guest preferences, needs, and expectations are evolving. Adapt your strategy and measure the results. Then it's time to connect the dots. For example, when introducing online check-in, because you receive a lot of complaining of queuing, look at how guest feedback on your new implementation via surveys and reviews, and then look for correlations. Guests who did online check-in, do they have a higher NPS score? And finally, keep investing in your staff. Along with the staff shortages and inflations, we need to safeguard the efforts and time. Let them focus on what is important, creating memorable touch points with guests. In the end, happy staff will lead to happy guests, to a better guest experience and a better online reputation. Next slide, please. And last but not least, if you would like to have further data on Q3, don't miss out the opportunity and sign up to receive the entire data report. And don't hesitate to contact us at ReviewPro.com for any additional questions you might have. Back over to you, Anne-Marie, and thank you all.
Anna, thank you so much. I actually do wonder, I mean, you say that the reviews are less now than prior to pandemic. Is there also, do you have don't know if you can answer that, but then as George says, the alternative lodgings are increasing. Do you think that people that use the alternative lodgings, might it be so that they are just like less willing to review? Don't know if you can answer that question, but
I don't think it's a matter of engage. I think that because the levels of traveling, what our data says is that the levels of traveling have not reached out the levels of 2019. That's the reason why the amount of reviews have still not reached those levels. There is no other reasons. However, I'll be very happy to share our insights if hoteliers in the call would like to engage more and more the revenue sites and your guests to leave a review on there, because it's really, really important. 3 out of 4 travelers are looking into online reviews before making a decision, and we know that how important it is for all of you.
Yeah. Thank you for we do see that a lot of our hotels actually have like a diminished review score, and I think that you gave the answer maybe to this. I mean, I was thinking also it's much leisure oriented traveling right now. We might be more nagging when we are just like leisure individuals, right?
And because the rates has increased because of the inflation, so the expectations are higher, and we are all more ticky, I would say.
Thank you. Actually, this is traditionally the last webinar of the year is traditionally about statistics. We try to wrap up the year, but maybe we also try to see, okay, what is 2023? So what is the coming year going to give us? So don't know if you can answer this question. You were talking already a little bit about the future, Samantha, but is it if you can say something about the outcome of what you think the next year is going to be. It's going to be a challenging year. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I can only try to answer. I don't know whether the answer will turn out to be true, and I think that's Dan, because you asked something around luxury versus economy travel as well earlier. I think, yes, in some sense, you are right that people have been banking their money during COVID, as you say, and that has really given them the possibility to travel or spend more on their travel in 2022. This is starting or will, at least in 2023, plateau at some point. And like one of the slides showed, that increase will be less substantial and will drop to 10% growth in 23 versus 22. But then I also think that the outcome of 2023 will depend on where you are in the world. I mean, US dollars trading countries will suffer less than those that are in GBP or euros. The Middle East is not looking close to going through a recession. So the answer is going to be quite different depending on where you live.
Thank you. George, would you have like a nice answer to the question as
well? Yeah, I almost feel like me and Samantha were almost doing futurology here a little bit at the moment. I fully agree with Samantha. What we've seen is, first of all, based on the data that we've provided, it really depends if we're talking about, for example, hotels or alternative lodging. As you can see, it's completely two different features that we're having at the moment in terms of that occupancy looking into Q1 of next year. How do we see the future ahead? So based on what we're speaking like with hotels globally, but I can speak more specifically about the UK and Ireland, we see leisure continue to be strong. The business corporate is not on the levels that it used to be in 2019, but is going ahead on that direction. However, for example, when I speak about business groups, the level of inquiries seems to be in pair with 2019. However, the spend of those inquiries are totally different. So much smaller numbers, smaller delegates, maybe smaller meetings. Another thing that I would add, because it came to, I think it was one of the questions in the Q&A, is when do we stop talking about revenge tourism or revenge traveler? I think COVID changed a little bit our behaviors, but also our own internal values. I don't think we're talking anymore about revenge traveler, and we won't continue to talk about it during 2023, but rather more the essential travel, right? How many people now desperately need, even if it's not a weekend escape, to that. And I think this will continue despite inflation and despite what we're seeing in the markets. However, as Samantha mentioned, we're getting different talks. Either if we're in APAC or EMEA or EMEA is in completely different. And here we're talking about inflation. We can go to Eastern Europe where you see inflation over 20% when compared to Spain, which I think is placing on 7 and 8. So it's a little bit hard to say. But from an OTA Insight perspective, the way that we're moving forward is we believe automation will be essential. We believe that looking into total revenue management will be a big part of operating hotels. And this will be the reality in 2023, and how agile you are adapting to that demand and that consumer behavior.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, Claudia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can also continue the customer behavior topic. I think from our perspective, we see moving more into AI, so the artificial intelligence. So of course, softwares that can predict user behaviors, so-called generative AI. As the users, we now have very high expectations that every website, every service will exactly know what we're looking for and will personalize our experience straight away from the moment when we visit the page. And what I would also highlight personally, I think we see strong trends that consumers are happier when they spend their money on the experiences versus the material purchases. This trend has already started in 2020, caused by the pandemic, and we see that it continues. So it looks like it's even growing bigger as a post-effect of all the recent events that have placed worldwide.
Yeah, thank you. Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Jorge and Claudia. Automation definitely is a key word for 2023. In terms of the guest experience, I would say we need to understand what part of the guest journey can be digitalized quickly. This might mean to using an AI chatbot solution, a digital dining solution, or an online check-in solution, as for example. However, an essential part of recovery will be restoring for guest satisfaction levels in 2019. And that will require a solid, I would say, commitment from hotels to review and analyze what guests are saying, or at the review site or at the surveys that they have in place. And because I believe only identifying what guests' concerns and mobilizing the entire team to resolve it, hotel will definitely capture the guest satisfaction levels that they got at the pandemics.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think for me personally, I think it's very difficult to say, okay, what is going to happen? I thought always like, okay, people they have less money to spend. So they do want to have like something that's rewarding. So I thought actually, okay, they're going to look very closely to what they're going to spend their money on, and maybe just like have less holidays. And then me myself, if I look at it, I've already booked 2 holidays like outside of Europe in the coming 2 months or something like that. So I might contradict myself, but it's an interesting year to come actually. Anna, maybe now we are talking to you, or you've been the last one. That's hotels. I mean, if they changed, there's so many new challenges coming up. Do you know? Would you know how hoteliers could work smarter, not harder? Is this the automation part that you're talking about, or is this?
Thank you for the question. Definitely a very good one. Yeah, hoteliers, I would say really need to work smarter. more than harder. I already said that one of the strategies definitely is understand what part of the guest journey can be digitalized. I would say use guest data. You have the data, you have the guest intelligence out there to really understand the experience of your guests. Guest expectations have changed. We've seen that. The traveler perception of value, now that room rates are higher, are definitely affecting what guests are expecting. So, and last but not least, I would say personalize. This means understanding why guests are visiting and what they plan to do while there. Then I would say it's about how to make the experience more personalized, how to wow them, and how to turn them into loyal guests and promoters.
Yeah, thank you. I think work smarter, not harder is a very hot topic, because I mean, we have to do the work with like less people involved, right?
Exactly. That's why digitalization.
Yeah. Samantha, I don't really know if this is a question for you, but I was also thinking about this fact, like, okay, we might be more picky on where we spend our money on. Would you see that we would like have a different segmentation shift into the upper market hotels, or?
Well, I mean, from what we've seen so far is there's this clear distinction between whether you are a more budget hotel or if you're more in the luxury segment. The economy have really been able to recuperate on occupancy levels better than what the luxury segment has been able to do. Whether this is a trend that is going to continue, I don't know. I definitely think that there is going to be a change in ADR increases next year, and time will tell, but I currently don't have the answer for that.
No, it's putting you on the spot as well. Yeah, time will tell. I mean, Jorge, I have a question for you as well, and I think this comes from I've looked at your new platform. You use actually flight and hotel search. Would you say that this is like a reliable indicator of the market demand?
Yes, absolutely. So we've launched Market Insight, right, I think in the beginning of the pandemic. And I usually say that the product team, which in OTA Insight, they are second to none. They need to be living in the future, right? They need to be ahead of the curve to develop the product to then be able to, surf that wave. So during this couple of years, and especially with the pandemic in the middle, we have a lot of study cases where early sign of demand based on searches that intend to buy, that intend to book, will then eventually represent booked business. Another interesting correlation also with that, and Transparent allowed us to also understand that, is the leading pattern. So when we look into alternative lodging, the demand and the business on the book starts picking up in certain destinations, and then hotels follow a few weeks after. So that's a few correlations that we were able to pick up. But when we look into demand, obviously, from an hotel perspective, it allows you to turn lookers into bookers. If we understand that, for example, Spain is looking to come in the first week of December to UK, they're looking to stay an average of 4.6 nights, and they are mainly coming from Madrid and then Barcelona. There's plenty of choices that we could do over here. So we could do a point of sale promotion. We could do a geo-target promotion. We could do a promotion based on the length of stay they are looking for. If we're working with wholesalers and travel operators, we could actually use this data to generate an offer to put it out there. But demand will be the base of your strategy afterwards. And then how can you leverage this? For example, I think, Anne-Marie, you put a very nice group over here, because, for example, if you go then to the hotels network, we already know who's looking. We already know who's wanting to come to our hotel, but then we can digest the data, slice and dice, and make the appropriate choices in terms of our commercial strategy. So this is where searches can be the base of your commercial strategy, but also live data will allow you to adapt much, much faster. I don't know if I answered or if I dwelt a little bit, but
No, actually, I think it's a nice question over to Claudia, actually. First of all, the question is, I presume that people will have to have your booking engine or in order to get the benchmarking data, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So like mentioned before, it's quite easy. You just have to add a line of code to your website and the booking engine, because of course for us it's important to measure both stages so we know how the conversion works. Do you have a lot of visits just to your homepage and they leave the page, or they actually convert to the booking engine? So that also helps to build like a proper strategy of the direct website. And then, yeah, it usually takes around 30 days. And then you can see the performance.
I understand, but do they have to use your products? Can you do this on any booking engine?
Yeah, they can do it on any booking engine. We also partner with a lot of booking engines. So definitely we can add the script no matter what booking engine you use. So that's not an obstacle.
Okay, well, thank you. I see it's already time to close off the webinar. Thank you so much for everything being said. It was really, really, really interesting. We have recorded this webinar. We're going to send it to you as soon as possible. Now, we are in the midst of, the next webinar is on the 16th of February. Completely just like got out of track. So on the 16th of February of the next year. So this was the final webinar of this year. And that will be about the ever-changing life of a revenue manager. We have like speakers from Room Price, Genie, Net Affinity, myself also, and a few extra. It's nice, George, you already started talking about the coming webinar already in your presentation. So thank you very much for that. So it's on the 16th of February, and I really hope you will be able to join. We are also in the midst of organizing our next event. That's on the 31st of January of the coming year. And this is a very unique and hybrid event. It's held simultaneously in Stockholm, London, Milan, and online. We thank our platinum sponsors, Ideas and Oki very much for their help in that. If you want to book at the Stockholm event, I would advise you to buy your ticket before the 4th of December. And we have our special excellent offer of 2,500 Swedish kronor still on. But that brings us to the next slide. As we organize this in 3 cities, we already also have an online platform. Now, on this online platform, you are able to just like see all 3 events all day, and you can just like pick and choose what you want to look at. It's incredibly interesting material. We have fantastic keynote speakers and fantastic discussion panels throughout the day. There's a possibility, of course, to join us online, and we have a book early rate still available until the 30th of November. So be quick, and only by pay 39 euros to participate all day. Last but not least, for participants in Helsinki, Oslo, and Reykjavik, next week we organize our first ever Revenue Forum seminar in these cities. Revenue Forum seminars currently run in 12 cities and 10 countries for hoteliers who want to spend half a day of inspiration and networking. It's free of charge, and you will find all the information about our seminars and webinars on our website, revenueforum.net. And with that, I say thank you so much for joining us. Really hope you are joining us again next time. Thank you all speakers. It was really interesting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you so much,
Thank you
everyone.
Very much, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.